I'm here to tell my story. I'm here for support and guidance because I'm feeling very hopeless right now, and my mind is really convincing me that I don't deserve to be here anymore. I 25 meters and her 29 feet 3 years ago. I met someone over the internet on a sober app dealing with the same addiction that I deal with, which is cocaine. We chatted that night for hours. Little did I know what that simple phone call was going to lead to the most beautiful relationship that I'm probably ever going to have. We started out as just friends. She was engaged. I was in a situationship with a girl at the time. We talked once a week for a couple hours a day, just trying to be each other's support through our addiction. We understood each other more than anybody else did. Her relationship continued. I ended up getting in a relationship and having terrible boundaries for myself. It's standing up for wanting to keep her in my life. But my ex-girlfriend didn't like the fact that I was talking to another girl. And my old girlfriend hated the fact that I talked to another woman. We lost touch for about 2 months, and after I got out of that relationship, I texted her again because I thought about her every day, and I missed her and she missed me. She forgave me and accepted me back in March 2023. And our friendship went from talking to once or twice a week to talking all day every day. We got extremely close after that, very fast. She was there for me through my ex-girlfriend having an abortion and my addiction being in one of the worst parts that it ever has been. She was the only person that never judged me, always was there for me, accepted me for who I was. She started to be my favorite part of the day. Months of this went on, and throughout this whole time, her relationship was falling apart. And after 6 months of us being so close, and I realized that I was falling in love with somebody that I've never even seen before, someone I've only heard over a phone, someone that I wasn't flirting with or went in with the intention of dating them, somebody that was truly so special to me. I decided one day that I needed to tell her how I felt. I told her that I think I'm falling in love with my best friend, and I told her she acknowledged how I felt didn't make me feel bad, and I thought that this would have went differently because I knew how loyal of a person that she was. Her engagement continued to be in a rough patch for a couple years, and she was dealing with a lot of things on her own plate. I loved and supported her the same way she supported me. I want to emphasize extremely clearly right now that this woman is the most loyal person in the world. I'm not going to get into it on this thread because it's not what it's about. A month went on, and one night I was sitting on my couch watching Netflix, and I will never forget the phone call that I received at 2 o'clock in the morning. It was her calling me, crying, saying I need to tell you something, and she told me that she said that she loves me and doesn't know what to do. For about 15 minutes, I was in an absolute haze. I didn't even know what to do after hearing that. I was in disbelief. So now the person I've been growing an intimate bond and falling for with, we both feel the same way. She's engaged. She lives 3,000 miles away from me, and I've never even met her. We didn't act on anything. We didn't flirt. We didn't do anything. We just continued to be ourselves and be the same people that we were in our friendship. On August 17th, 2023, I decided that I was going to travel across the country to meet this woman that absolutely stole my heart. I rented a car and drove from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to Sacramento, California in 3.5 days, crying, so excited to meet this woman that I've been friends with and building such a close connection with for over a year. 35-hour drive time, 2,600 miles later, I entered the state of California for the first time of my life. I remember parking my car 3 spots away and her walking around the side of her car and just running up and jumping into my arms and giving me the best hug that I've gotten in my entire life. I will never forget the first time I laid eyes on her. I knew right that in there that woman was my soulmate. I experienced the cliche love at first sight. It's real. We spent about 15 minutes together and she was on her way to work. I went and got a hotel room because I was going to stay for a week and hang out. She went to work, and I was the happiest person in the entire world to finally meet this woman that I have fallen head over heels for. We hung out later that night, walked around the small, cute shopping center that had lights up at night, and we could not stop just hugging each other and cheesing so hard. I never felt so much happiness in my entire life. All that time that we wished that we could have met each other in person after building the bond we had. Admitting to each other that we had feelings for each other and how me and her both thought that it was never even going to be a thing because she was still in a relationship. And she was a loyal girl, even with her relationship failing. We eventually sat down at a bar and were both so nervous, like two kids that were just scared of the world when it came to facing each other, because we valued each other's opinions so much. We had a few drinks to calm our nerves and hours of smiling and coming to the realization that what we had was probably very real. Just how happy we were to finally be able to look each other in the eyes and smile. And later that night, we ended up caving in our impulses, and I kissed her and she kissed me back, and we made love together. And she actually even stopped me in the middle of it because she started crying because she knew what she was doing was so wrong. And I immediately stopped and hugged her and told her that she has nothing to worry about and that I totally respected how she felt. And I felt the same way. But for some reason, that sense of security and safety and just her knowing that I was never going to force something on her made her trust me, and we continued shortly after. And when I tell you, that was the best sex of my entire life and the most intimate sex of my entire life, I mean it. I laid there and held her after before she left for the night and went home. And we finally felt like all the built-up emotions that we had for each other were let out all at once. The next day, she was extremely regretful, and things were very rough the following day, and I stayed for a week. We continued to hang out. Unfortunately, we could not stop loving each other the way that we shouldn't have been, and eventually we went to Lake Tahoe, and I took my first picture of myself with her, kissing her on the cheek, and I'm looking at the picture as I am writing this. I cannot emphasize to anyone that takes the time to read this the amount of happiness that I was feeling in that moment. The amount of happiness that me and her shared in that moment probably will be the most happiness I feel in my life. I ended up going home, and she broke the news to her fiancé, and obviously things were very bad. I ended up moving to California full-time and had a lot of complications over the course of August 2023 until January 1st, 2024. And we were on and off cheating and being in love and wanting to have something real so badly that we couldn't have, as she was trying to figure out what she was doing in her own life, in her own relationship. She was so in love with me, and I was so in love with her. Fast forward to January, I was homeless, doing everything I can to just be within the same proximity, in the same state with this woman that I'm so madly in love with and that I would do anything for. I ended up finally having to give in, and I flew back to Pennsylvania, and we stayed in contact the whole time. We were both probably at some of the lowest points of our lives. She finally ended her engagement in March. We did not see each other until I came to see her for her 28th birthday in April. It was the first time I saw her, and she was actually single, and we wouldn't be doing anything that we were going to feel guilty about the next day. I set up the cutest thing for a woman in my entire life. Candles in the hallway leading to the bedroom, flowers on the bed, happy birthday, balloons, the whole 9 yards. And I was just once again so happy to see this woman that I'm head over heels in love with. And I didn't see her for 4 months. And when she picked me up at the airport, the first thing that she did was kiss me when we didn't even plan on doing anything like that, because she was still trying to process the end of her engagement. I had the most magical weekend of my life with her for her birthday. That April 20th, 2024, fast forward. Again, we came back and forth. She finally came to Pittsburgh, and I showed her my childhood and where I grew up. I introduced her my family, still not as my girlfriend, but that night that she got there, we sat in my room and sat down, and I looked at her in the eyes. I handed her a promise ring and promised to never hurt her, because I knew everything that she had been through. Asked her to be my girlfriend, and she told me yes, had the biggest smile on her face on June 1st of 2024. I ended up moving in with her in California officially in August. 2024, we finally did it. We finally have the life that we've wanted, the life that we fought for, and went through that misery and pain to have after everything, convincing her family that I'm not a piece of shit because of the way that our relationship started, and that was it. I thought my addiction was going to finally go away. I wasn't going to be miserable about missing her. I wasn't going to be miserable about anything. How could I be? I had everything that I ever wanted, which was her. Everyone probably can guess the first couple months was honeymoon phase. Everything was perfect. I was dealing with a court case that I thought I was going to have to end up doing a couple months or a year for in jail, and we were worried about that. And I continued to convince myself that that was still driving my addiction, and I relapsed before that me and her were still strong. My court case got pushed out to May 2025, and from the months of October to May 2025, were probably the worst of both of our lives. I could not stop myself from fucking up and lying. I continued to use behind her back because I was so scared of her not wanting to deal with it anymore. After knowing me for 2 years at that point, I thought she was going to think I was crazy for even wanting to continue to use. After how happy we were together, Christmas came. We spoiled each other, and eventually at the end of January, we finally moved into our own first apartment together. And I was jobless, and this is where it gets bad. I have a record, and it's very hard for me to get a job being a felon, but she never looked at me any differently. Because of that, I got a contingent job offer from a dealership making $46 an hour, and she was so relieved, and I was so relieved, and it ended up falling through. And I did not know how to break the news to her, and I got high the day I found out, and that's when the lie started. I lied about getting the job, which turned into 2 months of me lying that I had a job there, and guilt not saying what actually happened, using because of how much guilt I felt. And then when the time came for her to ask me, "Where is your paycheck?" I said that the company was bankrupt and I had to file a lawsuit to get my money, which at this point I was in so deep, and I knew that no matter what was going to happen, my relationship was going to fucking fail, and I was going to lose my soulmate and the love of my life, all because I fucking couldn't bring myself to tell her the truth about one small thing that we could have worked past. And every day I lived in fear every day. I cried when she wasn't at home and tried to figure out a way to come up with the money that she was putting forth to support both of us. And just recently, 2 to 3 days ago, she found out everything that I lied about, and she's still telling me that she loves me, but she can just never be with me again. And I don't hate her, but this is my story. There's obviously little bits and details that were left out, but the core details are here. I know this is so long, and if anybody actually takes the time to read this, it would mean the world to me. I want to finish this by saying, am I a fucking idiot for still wanting to get on my knees and beg her and her family for forgiveness after betraying her? Keeping a lie go for 2 to 3 months, lying about a job, lying about a court case, lying about everything. Am I crazy? Am I a piece of shit for even being upset that I'm losing her? This was all my fault. I caused this, and I knew throughout the whole time that I was lying. I knew this day was going to come, and I still could never bring myself to just tell her the truth. I've been so up and down, I don't know what to do, but all I know is that I'm sitting in a hotel room waiting for a plane ticket home tomorrow, and I'm scared that I'm never going to see her again. I don't know how to come to terms with the fact that she's telling me that she can never see us working out down the line after years of us healing ourselves, because we both have our own things that we need to work on, because she told me that if I loved her, I would do anything to win her back and win her family back. And the truth is, I would go to the end of the earth for this woman still, and I don't know how to express my regret and remorse for what I've done. I need advice on what to do, because I'm feeling very hopeless right now, because I cannot imagine a life without this girl. Me and this woman talked about getting married to each other every fucking week. It was so real. It was gonna probably be hinting at me to possibly propose to her by the end of this year or next year. I don't know what to do. I'm stop rambling now. If anybody reads this all the way through, you're a saint. Thank you. I need to add in that I did not clarify that throughout all of this, this woman was the most supportive person in my entire life, always accepted me for who I was, always accepted me for mistakes, loved me to the ends of all earth, tried to get me in therapy, which I was in for 4 months, and it just never worked out because I wasn't putting the effort in, because I couldn't stop using and had so much regret about my life and my lies that I was continuing to tell her family was nothing but supportive and amazing. Everyone that surrounded her in her life was amazing to me and was ready to take me in as a part of their family. I just wanted to clarify that this woman loved me in the purest way possible, and I will never have one single bad thing to ever say about her or anyone in her family.